Now, when I was a kid growing up and I first learned the 10 Commandments, I thought there were 2 commandments that were unbelievably easy to follow. And those 2 commandments would be commandment number 5, thou shalt not murder. Because again, as a kid, probably like in 3rd grade, I wasn't planning on offing anybody. Still don't. And the other commandment that I thought was just kind of a no-brainer to follow would have been the 1st commandment. I am the Lord your God, don't put any other gods before me. It gives you some insight into a child's mind. When I read that commandment as gods before me, lowercase g gods, I was thinking, well, I'm monotheistic. I don't even know about other gods. I don't believe in Egyptian gods or Roman gods. I believe in Jesus as God. So that's a real simple one to follow. Let's move on to the harder ones. But as I grew up, I started to realize that we're constantly putting false gods before our main God. Jesus talks about this in the New Testament by serving 2 masters. You cannot serve both God and money. Money is a prime example of a lifeless God that we're constantly putting in front of our relationship with the ultimate God.
That's what I need, money.
So it went from being the easiest commandment in my book to being the hardest. When I was in my late teens and early 20s, I kind of went through a little bit of a depression era, and my bestie was always really, really happy, and he seemed to always be at peace. And I once asked him one day, what is your secret? Why are you always happy? And he replied with a real simple formula to follow, and that was DVDs equal happiness. It's the late 90s. I never saw a DVD. I didn't own a DVD player. I just imagined that DVDs were just movies, and I already had plenty of movies on VHS. And my friend says, no, it is way more than just a movie. You haven't lived till you watched a DVD. So I went out and bought my favorite movie of all time. I bought Ghostbusters on DVD. And when I popped it into the DVD player, I was mesmerized. Whoa, there's an interactive menu. I can click on the theatrical trailer. I mean, the movie came out in 1984. I don't remember the theatrical trailer, and this is pre-YouTube era, so I couldn't just queue it up online. So I'm seeing the Ghostbusters movie, my favorite movie of all time, the theatrical trailer. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. What else does it have? It has featurettes, it has commentaries. Wow, they talk through the whole movie, about the movie. This is the coolest thing ever. My friend was right. DVDs equal happiness. And I found myself, whenever I was down, I went to Best Buy and bought a DVD. When you're collecting DVDs, Sunday truly is the Lord's Day, because that's when the newspaper posts all the sales for the week on upcoming DVDs and older DVDs that you can buy. I was obsessed. I even evangelized to my friends whenever they were feeling down. I go, do you own a DVD? Well, what I started to realize is that the pleasure of watching a DVD, the joy of watching a DVD, was very short-lived. You watch it and then the movie's over, you go through the whole package, wow, it's over, now what? Well, gotta go back to Best Buy and buy some more DVDs. And I did this for a couple years, and we're talking over 200 DVDs later. I actually had a spreadsheet that had it alphabetized. I woke up one day realizing, you know what, DVDs just aren't cutting it. DVDs aren't giving me fulfillment. I don't know how it worked for my friend, but it's doing nothing for me. And that's what lifeless gods do to us. They give us this sense of momentary satisfaction, but it's always short-lived. It is for the moment. And I want to show you something now. I first started my collection in the late 90s, and now I'm filming this in 2014. I want to show you something here. Come over here. I want to show you this. This, of course, is the studio for the K-Source, and here are my trophies, so to speak. I've already started to reduce a lot of gaps here, and what we have going down here at the floor is a big pile of movies that do absolutely nothing for me. I mean, Harrison Ford with a poor Russian accent. I guess I was into Johnny Depp for a while, but as you can see in this pile, it's time to get rid of some Johnny Depp movies. I already did that with Val Kilmer a while back. What this pile is reflecting, first of all, what this is reflecting is a couple $100 worth of investment. And what this is reflecting is how it is short-lived. Yeah, it kind of served its function for I don't know, a decade or so, but ultimately these are all going to the store and see what kind of pennies I can get for it, because they do nothing for me. I mean, I don't even know what some of these movies are even about. What does this have to do with Scripture? In Exodus 32, the Israelites found themselves resorting to idol worship. Okay, know that term, idol worship. An idol simply means one that is adored. I call it a lifeless God because although we worship it, it will never bring us fulfillment. It will never bring us fullness of living, unlike our actual God. Idolatry is when you have an idol and you give it the power of ultimate happiness. We're talking about living a life where you think this is the only thing that's going to give you happiness. I mean, I was lucky that my DVDs were my addiction, but it could have been far worse. And it is far worse with many other people. People that resort to alcoholism or drug abuse to fulfill their sense of identity, to give them some momentary joy. They constantly have to go back for more fixes because it's lifeless. It doesn't bring ultimate fulfillment. So Moses was up on the mountain receiving the commandments for 40-some days, and the Israelites grew worried that Moses was dead and that the God of Jacob has abandoned them. So the Israelites gather together all their gold and they go to Aaron and say, we want you to construct an idol for us so we can worship this idol. Aaron constructs a golden calf and the Israelites start worshiping this calf. Now, if you look at the Exodus 20 list of the 10 Commandments, part of commandment number 1 is don't create any graven images, like an idol, golden calf, and don't put them before God. Why a golden calf? Well, the gold could be symbolic of money. Here they are worshiping money instead of Yahweh. Or likely a calf might have been one of the other gods out there. It could have been an Egyptian god for all we know, a god of life, and the Israelites were going back to worshiping what they knew, which was Egyptian culture. Yahweh, you can understand, is furious, starts cursing the world. Moses intervenes, goes down, throws these newly constructed commandments to the ground, melts down the calf, grinds it into powder, puts it in the water source, and forces the Israelites to drink it. You drink your sin, you own your sin. Then he gathers the Levites, remember they're the religious people, right? And he asks the Levites to slaughter a bunch of them. And it says 3,000 of them were murdered that day. Of course, 3,000 is a biblical number, can't invest a lot of stock into it. But the point is, people die because of their investment in a lifeless God. Now, bring this back to my discussion about drug abuse or whatever it is that could be your addiction, or whatever it is that is the God you put in front of Yahweh. Nothing good is going to come out of it. And the Israelites, you can make the case, are very innocently worshiping this idol. They've always been familiar with idols in the Egyptian culture, and they're going back to what they know. And we do that in times of distress. We go back to addiction when things are confusing for us, when things are difficult for us. We're going to go back to the familiar. And unfortunately, the familiar a lot of times is sin. A great movie that portrays the golden calf story is Kevin Smith's film Dogma. Very famous scene, Matt Damon and, of course, Ben Affleck are angels. And they go into a boardroom scene where essentially there's this Disney-like corporation called Mubi that's represented by a golden calf. And what I love about the cinematography, visually they put the calf in front of a window that is facing the church. So you have the calf in front of God, and the angels go around the room disclosing to the board members all of their sins that have resulted because of their investment in this lifeless God, in this idol.
Last year, you cheated on your wife of 17 years 8 times.
And the end of the scene results in all of them dying.
I do believe in this. Don't run!
Very much a visualization of Exodus 32. Wherever your heart is, your action's going to stem from that. So if your heart is invested in money, power, sex, your actions are going to reflect where your heart is. So going back to the 10 Commandments, the first 3 commandments is about making God where your heart is. Making God number 1, not disrespecting Him and worshiping Him. And if your heart is invested in those first 3 commandments, the remaining 7 are going to come very naturally. The reverse happens when you invest in a false God. Your actions are going to stem from that, whatever they may be. And what we learn from Scripture, that's when death results.